Everybody, it's Actuary Dude over here, just looking at another exam question. So here we go. A fund had a value, it's got 21,000 on the 1st of July 03, net cash flow of 5,000 received on the 1st of July 04. In fact, the best way to do it is if you're drawing a timeline, I'm just going to look at all the times and see what's the first and what's the last. So if we have 1st of July 03, that's 05, we end up with 1st of July 06, and I can't see any later times. So the best thing to do is then to start like that and go 1st to the 7th 03 and then end with 1st of July 06. And then we can start looking at the other things. So it does say that we have a value of 21,000. It looks as though everything is in the thousands, so I could just write it as 21. And so we're going to have a net cash flow of 5,000 on the 1st of July 04, which is in 1 year's time. So looking at that, and that was 5,000. And we're going to be getting another 8,000 on the 1st of July 05. Okay, so another 8 there. And then, okay, immediately before that, so before the first one we had 24,000, so just 24. And before that 8,000 was received we had 32,000. And then even though we had 32, which made it to 40,000, we ended up losing a bit of money and it came to 38,000 in the end. So the first bit it wants to know what is the annual effective money weighted rate of return earned over that entire period, which happened to be 1, 2, 3 years. So what do is we start with $21,000. We can multiply that by some interest rate, and that goes over 3 years. Then we receive 5,000, and that went over 2 years. Plus I to the 2, that's a 5. And then we received 8,000, and that only accumulated interest over 1 year. That's just one, and that ended up being $38,000. So we've got to find out what I is, and we've got to do it by, get it by doing trial and error. So let's just use Excel and muck around with some numbers just to make things a little bit easier. So I'm going to do what I did in that last one. I'm going to say 21 multiplied by 1 plus this bit over here to the power of 3, and then we're just going to be adding on 5 multiplied by 1 plus that bit there to the power of 2 plus, I'll just bring this along, it's going to be 8 times 1 plus I, which we're still trying to work out. Okay, so what amount is this? We've got to get this number over here to become 38. And I can use Solver or something, but on the exam we're not going to have that, so just imagine you're using your calculator again and again. And let's just muck around and say, what if we had 6%? We're looking at 39, it's a bit high, so we'll lower the interest rate and say we have 5%. It's pretty close. What if we have 4%? It's a bit too low, so what if we had 4.5%? It's still a bit too low. So what if we had 4.75%, just go in the middle? That's pretty close, 4.75%. Now it doesn't really say what it wants the answer to be in, so I would leave it at that. But some answers will tell you to do 4.74%, which is just going the other way. So in fact, let's just keep the 4.75, and that then, sorry, 4.75. That then looks a lot better. All right, so let's note that down. That I is equal to 0.0475 or 4.75%, and that's per annum. And there we go, that's the effective money weighted rate of return. Then it wants us to work out what is the time weighted rate of return between that period, the annual effective one. So all we have to do over here is we start off with 1 plus I, we don't know what it is, and it's going over 3 years, and that equals 2. So this is actually more fun than doing the money weighted rate of return. We have 21 and we end up with 24. So we got some factor return there, and then we have 24, we add on 5, and then we end up with 32. And then same thing, we have 32, we add 8, and then we end up with 38. So now we just have to work out what does I equal. So let's just use Excel over here and say is equal to, so I'm just going to write down, I'll do it all in one equation, 24 divided by 21 times 32 divided by 29 multiplied by 38 divided by 40 gives us that bit over there. That's 1 plus I to the power of 3. We put that to the power of a third to get rid of it to the power of a 3, and then we minus 1, and then we have 6.207661%. So there we go, so rounded that's going to be 6.21% per annum. And then the third question asks, as you could probably imagine, explain why those two values differ. We had this amount here, and that's a 4. And then we've got this one over here, so what's the difference? Well, part of the difference is the time-weighted rate of return is not it's not being affected because what happened over here, this second year we didn't perform so well. So the money-weighted rate of return is actually being brought down quite a bit lower by this additional year over here, where we didn't do so well. Whereas the time-weighted rate of return isn't having that much of a bad effect because of that. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. If you do have any questions or if it's unclear about anything, then just please ask.